I welcome you all out to our second Premier Wealth Management speaker in this series that we have put together. Obviously, the purpose of this speaker series is to provide topics of interest that will help you as you manage your business and your personal finances. I think today is a very topical topic as Senator Alan Simpson speaks to us about the deficit reduction plan with the work that's been done in Congress and with the President's speech last night. And if you saw the issue of the Deseret News with the picture of the Senator with the President and the Vice President and talking about budget cuts and what will be happening there. The Senator is meeting with some of the members of the press downstairs, and so he will be with us shortly. While we wait for him, I'd encourage you to go ahead and begin your lunch and eat your salads, and then they'll bring out the main portion of the meal. And while you're doing that, I'd just like to remind you what our Zions Premier Wealth Management Center is and what it does. If you haven't been through it, the center is downstairs in the lobby of this building. And it was established to offer a complete range, a holistic approach to financial management for our clients. And these services are provided through representatives of ZionsBank, Zions Wealth Advisors, Zions Direct, Western National Trust Company, and Zions Insurance Agency. And while the center is located in this building in the center of Salt Lake City, these same products and services are offered throughout our footprint by able and professional and dedicated officers of these organizations providing banking and investment and insurance and trust services. Zions has been a trusted member of this community for about 140 years, and everything we do honors that legacy. And we understand that we're in business because of the trust that our customers have in us, and we want to continue to earn and maintain that trust. And our goal is simply to provide value for our communities and our customers. As you eat your lunch, we're going to hear briefly from Executive Vice President Dave Hemingway, who oversees Zions Investment and Asset and Liability Services. And following Dave, we'll hear from Kevin Mikan, the President of Western National Trust Company, a subsidiary of ZionsBank and the oldest trust operation in Utah. So David, I'll turn the podium over to you.
Thank you for being here, and please go ahead. Just have a couple of brief comments. As we think about what Senator Simpson has been involved in and the gravity of the national debt and so forth, and the problems that is bringing and also will potentially bring in the future if we don't deal with it. We, of course, are anxious to hear what Senator Simpson has to say, but it also recalls back to a much younger time in my life when I was a student in grade school, and I remember having a conversation about the national debt. And I remember that the response that was given to me in grade school is we didn't need to actually worry about the national debt because we only owed it to ourselves. And, you know, being a young, inquiring mind, I thought, well, gee, that sounds pretty reasonable. I guess that's right. So now I have a question for you today. We're going to do a little survey here. By the show of hands, how many of you own some U.S. Treasury bills, notes, and bonds? I'm just raising my hand so that I can actually show you how to raise your hand, because I don't own any. So, okay, did you raise your hands? Now, how many of you didn't raise your hands? We do not owe any of the national debt to you. You're not included in the definition of ourselves. Ourselves, from my third grade teacher, only includes those that raised their hand at the beginning. So this is obviously, there's a lot of misinformation around, even from my third grade teacher. And we're happy to hear from those that have more insight, and we'll be happy to hear from Senator Simpson here in a few minutes. I am over Zions Direct, so I have one more question, and then I'll let you. Then we'll turn the time over to Kevin. So, Zions Direct, as many of you know, sends out a weekly newsletter. It's an electronic newsletter. We send it to your email address. And we include articles which are actually of national interest, and then we include the results of our auctions. And for those that may not be aware, you can go into the Wealth Center downstairs and you'll see that we auction off every day U.S. corporate bonds, we auction off municipal bonds, and we auction off FDIC-insured CDs. So now, since I'm into taking surveys here, how many of you received the free weekly Zions Direct newsletter to your email address? Okay, well that's a lot more of you received the Zions Direct newsletter than own U.S. Treasury bills, notes, and bonds. I can see that our message is getting out there. Well, for those of you that may not be receiving it, it's free. If you'll give us your email address, we'll add you to the list, and we'll update you each week as to what we think is important and give you some information that might be helpful to you. With that, we're grateful to have you here, and thank you very much, and enjoy your lunch.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I am Kevin Mikan, and I'm responsible for Western National Trust Company here at ZionsBank. And first of all, I'd like to thank Scott Anderson for his support and commitment to wealth management and for making today possible. I have to admit, I was excited about today's event because I can't imagine a better day than tax day for all of us to be together for one of our Zions Premier Wealth Management lunches. Tax season is a time that we are all especially attuned to what we as taxpayers are paying to fund Washington. We all know we are facing tremendous pressures as a nation caused by complexities of a deceivingly simple problem: revenues, spending, growth, and debt. All of us in our personal lives have knowledge about revenue, spending, growth, and debt. The successful business owners in our audience today have a deeper knowledge of the relationships between all of these. Because we have this understanding, we all need to take action on this critical issue. I have to say, being a bit of a policy nerd, I'm excited that Senator Simpson is with us today and look forward to his remarks. The report issued by the bipartisan National Commission on Fiscal Responsibility and Reform, which the Senator co-chaired, was simply titled "The Moment of Truth." This is clearly appropriate today. I've read the report and want to speak to one line from this report that struck me, and it's in the preamble. The first line of the report actually begins, "Throughout our nation's history, Americans have found the courage to do right by our children's future." Zions Premier Wealth Management was created to help bring about futures. My colleagues and I at Zions work with you to help bring about the futures that you want, both for yourselves and for your children and grandchildren. If you're a business owner, we specialize in integrating your business's future along with yours as well. Through our wealth management offering, we have the expertise to listen to you, understand your objectives, and offer solutions to bring to reality the futures that you want. As Scott said, we offer specialists across the wealth management spectrum covering comprehensive financial planning, developing that plan to bring about your future, credit, deposits, cash management, insurance, legacy and asset protection solutions, estate and legacy planning, portfolio management services, both for those of you who like to do it yourselves and for those of you who like some help along the way. For business owners, we offer assistance with valuation, business succession planning, transaction advisory services, and then most importantly of all, from my perspective, legacy planning issues with your family. You know, I invite all of you to visit the Zions Premier Wealth Management Center on the first floor. Speak with our team. I believe that you will all be impressed. And with that, enjoy lunch and thank you for these couple of minutes.
Thank you, David and Kevin. We appreciate your remarks. We're very honored to have our Lieutenant Governor with us, Lieutenant Governor Greg Bell, and would invite him to come and say a few words. We appreciate the service you're providing our state, and it's great to have you with us. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be here, and I realize that you've got a dime trying to warm you up for a $10 bill. This Senator Simpson, I wish he were here, but in my lifetime, I've only spent serious time watching daytime television twice. One was in the Watergate era, and many of you will remember that, how that was absolutely scintillating. An other almost equally sad event, however, occurred in the 80s when the word borked was invented, describing the experience of Judge Bork, who did not ascend to the Supreme Court. A dark era in our country, but was made so much better by the service of Senator Simpson, that plain-spoken, unvarnished man from Wyoming. And so for me, it is a real honor to be here because I feel our nation owes him a real debt, and I'm proud of what he did then. My role, briefly, thanks to ZionsBank for convening this. I'm delighted. This room is shared so widely and freely, and we have so many wonderful community meetings here. Recently, we had the Secretary of Transportation, Secretary Ray LaHood. And as he was shown kind of a window tour of Salt Lake City, he said, I have been in the 100 most major cities in the United States, and I have not seen anything like this. In this kind of an economic environment, to have the vitality, the promise, the investment that is being made here by the LDS Church and other developers, he said was really quite remarkable. He really couldn't find the superlatives to express it, but I think it is remarkable. I just want you to know a couple of things about the state of Utah. Unfortunately, it's becoming not just a sport, but a blood sport to attack the legislature and political leadership. And I grant we've had a few platforms for doing that in the last while, but I think two things are very significant and have been overshadowed by other developments. First of all, Utah, as I say, has been rather a boring place because we've been a flyover zone. We've been the something west of the Hudson and east of Hollywood, and no one's really paid attention to us. All of a sudden, people are paying attention to us because of those age-old values which Utah portrays so well. We balance our budget, we pay our bills, and we don't deficit spend. Now, 10 years ago, saying that would just be a bunch of truisms, but it's a big deal today. And I want you to know that we're one of a handful of states with a AAA bond rating, and we appreciate Richard Ellis, who manages our money so well. We were out of balance by about $50 million, meaning that we had one-time money covering ongoing needs. And out of an $11 billion budget, that is what they call budget dust. But that will be balanced soon. The second thing I want to tell you about, Utah, in its way, took on the problem of immigration in clear reaction to the default of the federal government, who has not been able to do anything. And in bringing together left, right, middle, and all kinds of interest groups, has been able to forge something of which Utah should be duly proud. Something based upon the Utah Compact, both of which are being emulated across the nation. It has an enforcement piece, it's very strong. It has a responsibility of employers, it's very strong. And it also provides a pathway for people to work who live here, understanding that we have no ability whatsoever to determine what people live within our borders. Therefore, those who live here are going to be able to work productively, pay taxes, be members of this society, and then when the federal government decides to do what they decide to do, we won't have interfered at all. Because of those and other reasons, therefore, I am very, very proud to be a Utahn, and I'll tell you after, Senator, the wonderful things I said about you before you came. Thank you.
His great-grandfather, Finn Burnett, served as an ambassador to Washaski, the Indian Shoshone chief. His father was an attorney who served both as the governor of Wyoming and then later as a senator from Wyoming. His brother Peter was a member of the Wyoming state legislature. Senator Simpson's first foray into politics was when he ran for the presidency of his sixth grade class. During that campaign, his mother told him to exhibit good sportsmanship and to vote for his opponent. He lost that election by 1 vote. And he promised that going forward, while he would always be a good sport, he would always vote for himself. And so he went on to serve for 13 years in the state legislature in Wyoming. And then in 1978, he was elected to the U.S. Senate, where he served for 18 years. Among the family stories looms his grandfather, William Simpson, who knew Butch Cassidy well and who shot a man to death on the streets of Cody. And then there is the wonderful story of his father's brother, Glenn, who was caught red-handed stealing 6 horses in Red Lodge. His father, an attorney as I mentioned, reluctantly agreed to defend Uncle Glenn and actually got him off. When the jury came in with a verdict, it was not guilty, but the jury recommended that Uncle Glenn return the horses that he had taken. So you can see that Senator Alan Simpson comes from good Western stock. He's inherited his family's brains, their commitment to public service and community service, and their ability to negotiate well. He is honest, candid, and just tells it like it is. He's highly revered and much respected and is known for his wit. When he first went to Washington, it was said of him that he had Jimmy Stewart charm. And then he went on to become one of the most powerful and prominent and popular people to serve in the U.S. Senate. Senator Simpson earned his BS degree from the University of Washington, and then upon graduation, he joined the Army and served in the 5th Infantry Division during the final months of the occupation in Germany. Following his return, he went back to the University of Wyoming and earned his Juris Doctorate degree. Following the Senate, he taught at the Kennedy School at Harvard University and taught at the University of Wyoming. While teaching at Harvard, legend has it that he described the relationship between elected officials and the press with his statement, "Right up the old gazoo." And one of his students asked him, what was the definition of gazoo? And with a smile, Professor Simpson said, the gazoo is the south end of a horse going north. So he gave a lot of good wisdom to those at Harvard. A year ago, President Obama appointed Senator Simpson as the co-chair of his bipartisan commission for reducing the deficit. His co-chair on there was Ernst B. Bowles. And when Mr. Bowles was asked why the senator accepted this assignment, he said, "The senator's doing it for his grandkids." I know it sounds corny, but it is really true. You have a copy of the plan that they produced from this commission on your table that the senators autographed and signed for each of you this morning. It calls for deep cuts in domestic and military spending, a gradual 15 cents a gallon increase in the federal gasoline tax, limiting or eliminating popular tax break in return for lower rates, benefit cuts, and an increased retirement age for Social Security. These changes, none of which would go into effect before 2012, would erase nearly $4 trillion from the projected deficits from 2020. And if you turn to the opening page of this, where both the senator and Mr. Bowles signed and gave a preface to the report, they end it by this statement: "We sign our names to this plan because we love our children, our grandchildren, and our country too much not to act while we still have the chance to secure a better future for all our fellow citizens." So it's a great privilege and pleasure to have the senator with us today, and we look forward to his comments. Using his words, he's an educated man, inoculated against humbug, thinks for himself, and tries to give his thoughts in speech or on paper with style. So Senator Simpson, we'll turn the podium over to you. Thank you for being with us.
Scott, where did you get all that stuff? Well, my brother? No. Well, of all the introductions I've ever had, that was the most recent. Just relax here. In about 30 minutes, I write this stuff myself. Governor, good to see you again. Yes, and I came in here. Some lag asked me a question. I was standing there. I was taken aback. Flummoxed would be the word. And I want to answer that fellow right now. And the answer to his question is, yes, I did sleep in this suit. Hopefully that'll clear that up for him. And, well, it's a great treat to be here with the ZionsBank. Gorgeous day, and so cold and Cheyenne the other day, I saw a lawyer going down the street with his hands in his own pockets. My sons are both lawyers, as I am, and they said that's not funny at all. But someone who had heard me speak before asked if I would tell the most corny, quick Wyoming story. Here it is, and it's just great demand. This couple hit the sack, 3 in the morning, the phone rings, guy answers, he says, "How the hell do I know? That's 2,000 miles from here." Hangs up, and his wife said, "Who was it?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "Some nut called and asked if the coast was clear." Pretty bad, actually. Now, to the chase here now. I have to get my watch. My co-chair, Erskine Bowles, and I managed to slip out of our witness protection program for events like this from time to time, spontaneously. Let me tell you, in Wyoming, they say if you hire on to be a cowboy, you can't complain if you draw a buck and bronco. And let me tell you, Erskine and I drew that critter. He is a tremendous person, and folks ask, why are we doing this? What they really mean is, at this age, when they ask you that, why are you doing this? And then they say, are you still doing this? It's called the still years. Are you still working, or you still doing this? I've heard enough of that, I'll tell you. Anyway, doing it for 15 reasons. I have 6 grandchildren. He has 9. And Of course, he has been labeled as a fake Democrat, destroying the liberal cause. I have been called a Republican toady, covering Obama's fanny so that he can destroy the Republican Party. These are good times throughout America. Charitable times, indeed. And so the commission had 3 working groups. We talked about mandatory spending, discretionary spending, and revenue. You cannot get where you have to go without revenue. We are right now in America at the lowest tax revenue since the Korean War, 15% of GDP. Historically, it's been 19.1. So don't know where we're going, but it's going to go somewhere. So we broke it down into these chairs. There were 18 of us, 6 appointed by the president, 3 appointed by the Democrat leaders in the House and the Senate, and so 12 of the 18 were in the Congress. It took us 3 months just to establish civility. I mean this. The first few weeks was, who's the biggest spending president in the history of the United States before this guy? Answer, George W. Bush, who never vetoed a single spending bill in 6.5 years until it came to stem cell research. So then the Republicans would sit there kind of squirreled up, and then they say, yeah, but this guy of yours outdone him 3 to 4 to 1, which is true. So finally, Erskine and I said, you know, we'll just put out a 2-person report. We don't have to sit here and listen to this for a year. And they said, well, you wouldn't do that. And we tried to tell them you can't succeed as a legislator, as a legislator, unless you can work with those on the other side. You learn how to compromise an issue without compromising yourself. It's very simple. I never judged the lifestyle or the reputation of others. The coin of the realm for me was trust. Just shake the hand and just trust. That's enough. So I can tell you the shimmering coin of trust in Washington is severely tarnished. So that's the stuff we went through in the beginning. They wanted us to turn our report in before the election so they could cherry pick it and blow us out of the water then. We didn't do that. We came out with it in December, and we all agreed, 18 of us, that deficit denial is dead as a dodo bird. And there's lots of stereotyping went on in this commission. Andy Stern is a member of the Service Employees Union. They said, Andy Stern, he's a commie. Well, no, he isn't actually. He may be a socialist, but you know, that's not. But then the Democrats would say, Tom Coburn, why, he's a right-wing nut. Republican? Why, good God, you know. And we said, come on, forget this stuff. So Coburn and Andy Stern put together our recommendations on how to cut back in the defense budget. And let me tell you, there's plenty of fat in the defense budget that doesn't have anything to do with defending the country. So it is 2/3 of the discretionary budget of the United States. We said, how many contractors do you have that go into the military for 20 years, come out, go to work for the defense establishment, and then hang around the Pentagon all day? They said, we have between, it's a range, it's between 1 million and 10 million. Well, we said, that's quite a range, certainly is. We said, we think we'll just lop 250,000 of those out. Well, we'll see what happens with that. Anyway, what we did was try to establish again the trust. Conrad worked with Camp, Ryan with Alice Rivlin. These are wonderful people. And we knew we'd never get to 14 of the 18. And so we just thought at this age of life, we just do it by ourselves. But Erskine and I agreed the other day, we were at a public forum, and we have succeeded beyond our wildest dreams. We've effectively pissed off everybody in America. And so I think that's a success in itself. And what do we do now? How do we make a difference? The fun and games is over, ladies and gentlemen. The moment of truth is here. All politicians at the table have been through the fire. It's a contact sport. You're the toast of the town one day and toast the next. You're on the cover of Time 1 month, and 6 months later you're doing it. And my father my father, who the gov knew here too, Bangor, Millward Simpson was governor. He was campaigning in Torrington, and some guy came up and said, "Simpson, I wouldn't vote for you if you were Jesus Christ." And he said, "If I was Jesus Christ, you wouldn't be in my precinct." And so we've all learned how to keep our heads down. And so after the election, we heard, the election was fascinating. We heard people shrieking, "Cut spending, cut spending, cut spending." Beautiful, lyrical. We say, well, what is it you want to cut? Well, waste, fraud, and abuse, earmarks, all foreign aid, Nancy Pelosi's aircraft, Air Force One, and all congressional pensions and anything else. That'll get you about 6% out of the hole that we're in. So the big bucks are in Medicare, Medicaid, and defense. We are not balancing the budget on the backs of poor old senior citizens by messing with Social Security. But there's a ton of reasons why we have to make that solvent for the next 75 years. But when you tell them that what they have just suggested is only 5 or 6% of the hole we're in, and then you say, well, what else would you do? And then they kind of freeze. They look off into the east waiting for a vision. The vision is you do something with Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and defense. The number of journalists and candidates and pundits who say that it's just absurd. And where I can at least get across to my fellow Westerners is very simple. If you spend more than you earn, you lose your butt. And if you spend $1 and borrow 40 cents of it, you got to be stupid. And that is exactly what your government does every day, and that is stupid. I mean, the whole business. Every buck we spend, we borrow 40 cents. Right now, today. That can't work. If you continue that, at the end of 10 years, the interest rate will be $1 trillion. What's a trillion? Nobody knows. We've slipped from the B to the T without knowing any difference between a billion and a trillion. A trillion, somebody said the other day, if you did 1 million a day since the birth of Christ, you wouldn't be at a trillion today. You'd be about 770 billion. That's how deep this hole is. Somebody said if you spent a dollar a second, you wouldn't have hit a trillion for 485,000 years. I mean, see, those are figures that no one can grasp. Maybe bankers can, but we poor souls, we don't. So get a copy of our plan. Well, you have it, and I was pleased to sign it. It'll be worth $3 at eBay and It's in English. It wasn't written for pedants or panders or journalists or politicians. It was written for the American people, and it uses phrases like shared sacrifice, going broke, things like that. It was written for the American people. Let's just look at it just a bit. People have been shrieking for years about tax reform. Lower the rates, broaden the base, get spending out of the tax code. Well, that's just what we did. We were stunned, all of us, to learn find that $1.1 trillion in tax expenditures every year, which is just spending by any other name. They're not subject to oversight, just there. Nobody ever touches them, and the bulk of them are taken advantage by the top 2% of earners in the United States. The little guy who itemizes, he doesn't even know what they are. He does the standard deduction. Only 2% are using these things. We found the top 400 earners in the United States pay 16% income tax. Buffett was right. These are disturbing trends. So we said, we got a great idea. We'll get rid of all of them. Of course, none of them very meaningful. Home mortgage interest deduction. Employer deduction of health care premiums, parking for employees, Blue Cross Blue Shield. You won't believe what's in that baby because you hired the best to go to Gucci Gulch and get it stuck in the tax code. how it works, how it worked for years. It doesn't work that way anymore. They're having trouble getting people on the Appropriations Committee because you're in peril if you bring home the bacon now because the pig is dead. And that's where we are with regard to the appropriators. So we say, get rid of them all, and then we'll do something for you. We'll say, we'll give you 3 tax rates. 0 to 70,000, you pay 8%. 70,000 to 210,000, you pay 14%. And anything over that, you pay 23% and lower the corporate tax rate to 26 from 36 and go to a territorial tax plan. Now, if you want to put something back, then what rate are you going to take up? You're going to go to 10, you can do that. Home mortgage interest deduction, $1 million. We said put it at 500, and if you really want to help the little guy, do a 12.5% non-refundable tax credit. That's help the little guy. So we threw that out there. That puzzled people. But we said whatever we want to add back, adjust the rates accordingly. That's kind of a moment of truth. We also recognized the need to take care of a very fragile recovery. And we didn't want to put too much on them too soon. So we say that the hard part really goes to effect in the year 2013. We have firewalls, triggers to make the recommendations work. The theme of our commission is if you want it, pay for it. The gas tax was thrown in there because the Transportation Trust Fund is a gimmick. It never has enough money, so they go to the federal treasury and get something out of it. So we said, well, put a 15-cent gas tax totally dedicated to it, and then when it reaches the top, you don't need any more, get rid of it. And of course, that's a puzzler to many people, but that is what we do. And so what we said, we reduced congressional and White House budgets by 15%, place a 3-year freeze on members' pay in Congress, place a 3-year freeze on federal workers and Defense Department civilians, reduce the size of the federal workforce through attrition, sell excess federal property. There are 1.2 million buildings, structures, and land parcels. If you don't need them, peddle them. Bring military and civilian pensions in line with private pension benefits available, including mine. Protect the disadvantaged. Stabilize the debt. You don't have to go crazy, just stabilize it. Consider a temporary tax holiday. That's what they're doing now, 4.2 on Social Security instead of 6.2. But who does that hurt the most? The Social Security system, as it draws down from itself. We found health care to be an absolute monster, single largest fiscal challenge in the long run for our country that we will ever see. And you know why? Because you know relatives who've gone to the hospital and gone into this or that, and then you didn't know what happened to the bill because somebody else was paying for it. Baby boomers are retiring at $10,000 a day, and becoming 65. Healthcare costs will go out of sight. Everybody's going to have to get in the game. There's going to be less pay for the medical community and providers. There's going to be affluence testing for patients on copay. Hospitals will have to keep 1 set of books instead of 2 sets of books. Medicaid will have to quit the gimmickry between the states so they can pour more money in that. And all this with triggers. Now let's honestly look at Social Security. I get enough guff on that one to last the rest of my life. The most savage letters I get from old coots over 70.
I got to check my Social Security. You got to see it.
I said, well, I'm 79, so how old are you? Well, I'm 7. Well, then, pal, you put in $5 when you were 15, and then probably the best 20 years of your early life, you never put in over $874 a year, and they don't. None of us ever did. And then it went to $1,200, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. Still, you never, ever almost catch up. But remember this. Now, don't throw anything. I hope your rolls are soft there. Social Security is not a retirement plan. Doesn't have a thing to do with retirement. It was an income supplement set up in the Depression to give a worker 43% of his of his wages back. The average age of life was 63. That's why they set the retirement at 65. That was the start of the game. It was never intended to handle disability insurance, which was suddenly saddled into it. That fund will go broke in 8 years. DI will be broke. And guess who will pick that up? You and me. It was never intended to take care of 22-year-old children in college. Never built that way. Has no ability to function that way. And now the life expectancy is 78.1. And so we said, look, let's take the lowest 20% of people and give them 125% of poverty. That'll take some money to do, but we decided we need to do that. Take care of the guy who's exhausted, can't work anymore. Don't let him have to wait to retire. Change the CPI to a chained CPI, which is more realistic, according to all sources. Raise the wages subject to the tax to $190,000 from $106,800. Do that over the next few years. And then do a hideous, terrible, sick thing. Raise the retirement age to 68 by the year 2050. Now, if some goofy guy can't figure out how the hell to get his stuff in order, between 2050 and today, and it's going to be 68, because it's going to be 67 in 2027, it will be 27, it will be 67. And with a life expectancy of 78.1, here's the real one. There were 16 people playing in when I was a freshman here, playing against the Utes for the Cowboys. 16 people paying in. Today there are 3 people paying in and 1 taking out. And in 10 years there will be 2 people paying in to this system and 1 taking out. How long do you think young people will sit still for that little caper? You mean I'm putting in $12.5 grand a year for some jerk when there used to be 16 people putting in? These are real figures. I've covered all this with the AARP. I said, if I'm lying to you, raise your hand. But you tell you about the AARP, those are 38 million people bound together by a common love of airline discounts. And automobile discounts, and rolling chair discounts, erectile dysfunction ads. The covers of the paper are sex over 50, 60, 70, 80. They're getting right into the nub of it. I mean, read the magazine. You won't believe what it is. So Erskine and I said to him, well, are there any patriots in here or just marketers? Didn't go over too well. We didn't tell that to the members. We told that to ourselves. And they said, well, they helped on pharmacy bill. I said, why not? They're the biggest pharmacy in the United States. Well, they helped on the health care. Why not? They've now crafted all sorts of plans and things that'll make them a ton out of this mix of the Obamacare. Well, anyway, as I say, we've been called the Cat Food Commission. That was a terrible thing to be called the Cat Food Commission. But those are the things that we had to do, and as I say, we pretty well alienated or irritated everybody in the United States. But as I say, by doing nothing with Social Security, you've done a cruel thing to the program and to your kin. So that's about it. There was nothing left off the table. As I say, we used the words broke and shared sacrifice. And in November, when that sobered everybody up, and do they really mean to let go of their favorite things? Everybody has a solution for somebody else, but not themselves. And that's the old song. Are they willing to cut back? Now here's the question that kept coming up. Where is the tipping point? That would be very interesting to you. The tipping point, we don't know, but we know where it was in Greece and Ireland and Portugal now, Spain, Italy coming up on the screen. It's very simple. The people that hold your paper have seen you don't have the guts to do anything to get in order, and they say, I want some money for my paper. And when the bond market reacts, you can forget politics, because people who love money care more about money than they do America. And they're not going to suffer, and they're going to pull the chain. It could be 6 months, it could be 6 weeks, it could be 6 days. But at some point in time, and this isn't money owed to our friendly old Uncle Henry, this is half of it to foreign nations and half of that is to China. We won't disappear, we won't lose our greatness, but we won't be number one. And our integrity in the money markets will be imperiled. So we couldn't figure where that would be. I really mean it. Where is it? But only the creditors will know. If at the end of this horrible thing coming up, which is the debt limit extension, where they say, I'm not going to vote for that unless we cut spending, and if they're insisting that it be, waste, fraud, and abuse, and that's all, those people aren't going to wait, and I think at the end of the year, they'll just raise their hand and say, give me some money, give me some cash. And so I can just tell you, however, that a cheerful note, 5 Democrats and 5 Republicans and 1 independent voted for this. That's 60% of the commission. That's all you need to do anything is 60%. Dick Durbin of Illinois was a saint. He voted for this. Harry Reid didn't want him to vote for it. Kent Conrad, a Democrat. Tom Coburn from Oklahoma. Mike Crapo, neighboring Idaho. These young people, and then Warner from Virginia and Chambliss from South Carolina, they're working. It's called the Gang of Six, and they're hanging together. I was at the president's speech the other day, and Paul Ryan was sitting in the front row, and boy, they just threw rocks on his head. It was not a good thing to watch, but Ryan says, I'm ready to work still. The Gang of Six is ready to work. Sat with the president yesterday morning for an hour, Erskine and I and Biden. And so the figures are pretty close, 4 trillion. They're all after 4 trillion. Ryan would like to go for 6. They're talking about tax reform. They're talking about entitlement reform. They're talking about triggers. They're still not dealing with Social Security in an honest way. That shows you the power of the senior groups. Because if you can't restore solvency of Social Security, that's the easiest thing in this whole package to do. And if they can't do that, they won't do much at all with Medicare, Medicaid, and defense. So watch for your signals. And then, of course, Grover Norquist, he's now calling Orrin a commie, and that's an interesting concept. But he testified before us. He said, my hero was Ronald Reagan. I said, well, mine too. I said, I knew Ronald Reagan, and you're no Ronald Reagan. And I said, Ronald Reagan raised taxes 11 times in his 8 years. And Grover said, I didn't like that at all. I said, I don't care whether you liked it or not. Why the hell did he do it? I said, I don't know. I was very disappointed. I said, probably to make the country run. That's a sick idea. That's probably why he did that. And so there we are. And if we can't do anything with revenue, you can't tax your way out of this. You can't cut spending your way out of this. There's no possible way unless you cripple everything in the government. So Ryan's got the guts. There are 3 plans on the table, and I'll take some questions just 1 second. Ryan's got a plan. The president's plan is out there in the commission. And if anybody else has a plan, throw it in there, but don't just sit and bitch and not pitch something into the mix. That is the reality. Don't whine and moan and just complain. Throw your plan in and we'll churn around in it. The troops are in place. I think they're emboldened by the system. They're going to do some magnificent things. But the debt limit time is coming. As I say, there's some good changes. Bruce Reed, our executive director, is Joe Biden's chief of staff now. Bill Daley, he knows how to make the trains run. Jack Lew, Gene Sperling, Steny Hoyer over in the House, and these are good people. But it's awfully difficult when you mention that Dick Durbin as helping us, and they'll say, well, isn't he a Democrat? I say, yes, he is. Who cares? Or isn't so-and-so a Republican? You don't work with them, do you? Who cares? If we're not Americans first instead of Republicans and Democrats, we won't make it out of this hole at all. But I can tell you, good things are happening. They'll deal with all three. The gang of six is in place. All you need to do is the same old thing. Write your congressman and tell them what they specifically will do. And if you get back the old phrase of, West Rodney Beach, just tear it up or just write, you are a fake, and send it back. And tell them Big Al sent you. No, they're looking for me. Now, enough, but I'll take questions if you want to do that. I'll be glad to, but, well. Unless you're wanting to get out. Yes, sir.
The gang of six has been working away for quite some time now. When are they going to actually jump into the fray, try to bring all of this together?
The question was, the gang of six had been working for some time. When are they going to bring it all together? They weren't going to do a thing until the president put something on the table. Well, he put her out there, and he hammered Ryan to bits, in a sense. He really did. But Ryan's got some good stuff in there. The president's got some good stuff. We have the good stuff. But they'll be, I don't know, I think, the debt limit could come up on May 16th, extension, or they may just gimmick around with funds until July. But it can't go past July because then it would go over $14,262 billion. And that is, and Gaitner is watching it. He said, I'm not fooling you. But the gang of six will come in pretty soon, and I think they're going to gather up a pretty good consensus. And they will be, that's what I said when I left yesterday, pray for the gang of six, because they're very thoughtful people and very eager to make things work, taking a lot of flack, and that's what you do. If you're a leader, you take flack. The tallest tree catches the most wind. If you don't want to lead, then just mess around in the lower regions and don't do anything. But if you're a leader, you lead, and you take a lot of stuff in that process. Yes, sir.
Can you comment on the Ryan Medicare, the approach to Medicare?
A talk on Ryan's approach to Medicare. He and Alice Rivlin worked on that. Now, Alice Rivlin is a Democrat. She was head of the original budget office. The voucher system just seems to paralyze people, Democrats especially. Just seems they go apoplectic. But he's in there taking some real stuff, kind of market-based, the kind of stuff that he believes in. But it's a heavy hit. And then, of course, all they have to do is say that it's going to hurt children and old ladies and homeless people, and and the president really hammered that kind of thing, laid it on him. And he sat in the front row. I think I would have gotten up. You don't have to be invited to something, to your own hanging, and it was not a good thing. I mentioned that to the president. I said I didn't think that was appropriate. He said, well, he didn't come to the last meeting we had. See, that's the stuff that's out there. And that never happened in my time there. Well, I didn't answer that question at all, but I got a lot off my chest there. No, what was it? What? Yeah. Well, his plan is described by the Democrats as absolutely draconian, but it gets the money. And Alice and I and others would say that it's just simple mathematics. But all you have to do is look in your own home or your own community and know the neighbor who had the heart attack at 90, beautiful woman, we'll name her Fran. They said, my God, we better get her to Billings in the life flight. We don't want to dare risk anything here. And so we went to Billings and the sonar. Well, will there be a heart thing? And no, and then back. And then her family drove her back to Cody. Nothing happened to her on that, and that cost just a tank of gas. And the bill was $350,000. She was on Medicaid, had no assets. Now that's where it is. Anybody believes that this is not going on every single day? And we've had people write us from the VA. Here's one for you. I'm a veteran. I served a couple of years in Germany with the Army of Occupation. I was in the reserves. If I'd stayed another few years in the reserve, I would be a military retiree. There are 2.2 million of them. That some of them may have been in combat, many have never been in combat. It's not about combat military retirees. It could be National Guard for many years, okay. Anyway, they have a health care plan called TRICARE, and the premium is $470 a year, and no copay. Takes care of all their dependents, and it costs you and me $53 billion a year. We said to Gates, well, what the hell, you let anybody get away with that? He said, are you kidding? Here comes the VFW, American Legion, the DAV, you name them all, and I'm a member of those groups. And then the military retirees, and are you kidding? Well, somebody has to start, we're like the group that knew too much. We found things like this all through the government. There's no reason on God's earth why those 20 people who've done 20 years all probably went into a good job from there and have health insurance in there. But you don't bring that up or else you hate veterans, you hate kids, you're the Cat Food Commission, you're rotten, you're a bigot, you deal with immigration honestly and you're a bigot and a racist. That's what's out there. And America falls prey to it. The best thing that could happen in America is for you to turn off your television set when it comes on, because there are people there getting millions in money to terrify you, irritate you, PO you, whether it's Oberman or Rush Babe or Glenn Beck or Mabel Rochow or whatever the hell. And they couldn't govern their way out of a paper bag. But they're going to tell you how to run the government and how it should run, and all they do is make their $5–10 million a year, and we're suckers for it. And they get us all worked up, and that's America. So I did say, I had to correct myself. I would share it with you. I was there in the Senate. Let's last 2 minutes. I don't see you looking at your watch, unless somebody has a question, and then of course you won't after this. So they said, they come to my office and they'd say, Al, you're just something. You're cutting the deficit. We count on you to cut that back. God, we're proud of you. 20 minutes worth of praise. And they say, but we're here today to get our share. We're here for a change in the tax code. That won't cost anything. We don't, well, it might, but there was just a change in the tariff here. We're not interested in real money. And then $880 million here because we are the most critical part of what we need in this country. So I was after 18 years, my mind would snap. I'd go to the window and pretend I was looking out, and I'd go, and so then I'd turn around and so I got a can of Bag Balm and I put it here on the desk, a little green can with the blossoms. And they said, "What is that?" I said, "It's Bag Balm." "What is it?" I said, "It's an emollient, a salve, if you will." "What do you do with it?" I said, "You apply it to the extremities of the bovine members of the quadrupeds that issue a lacteal extract." I said, "Well, I know, but what do you mean?" I said, "Look, the sun shines off the snow up on the udder, cracks the udder, put big dollops of Bag Balm. It's good for your hands, good on your feet too. Socks pull on there Saturday night. Stinks, but it's glorious." They said, well, what's it doing on your desk?" I said, "Well, if America has become a milk cow with 310 million tits, we need all the Bag Balm we can produce." Thank you.
Well, Senator, thank you very much. And in in gratitude for you being with us and in honor of your Western heritage, would like to present you with his hand-woven horsehair blanket. This was actually woven by one of the great cow managers in the country, legendary Bill Kane, who Ian Tyson has written a song about. We thought it would come in handy as you try to round up enough votes to pass something meaningful in Congress. So thank you very much. But we appreciate you all being with us. We appreciate your friendship and support, and we really do appreciate your business. And we hope if you have time, you'll visit our Wealth Management Center downstairs and the fine people that are providing those services. Thank you very much.